Well, good afternoon, folks. Thank you for being here for our Grad Expo info session. My name is Jesse Singleton. I am the Assistant Director here with UTEP's Graduate School and their student support. Happy to chat with you all today about our upcoming initiative and annual research poster symposium. So thanks for folks that are here in attendance. We do have a couple other folks in the room that are assisting with the digital space as I'm going and presenting, just so I don't miss anything for questions or whatnot. And to let folks join in, and that is Angel Diaz, who is our coordinator for student fellowships and awards and success, and Elizabeth Biney, who is our graduate or doctoral assistant here in the graduate school. So I appreciate them both being here to help out with our session today as we get started. I'm going to go ahead and actually be off camera so that it's a cleaner recording for the session and a little bit less distracting. I know that I'm here and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you all have. As we go through the session, please feel free to post things in the chat, or if you'd like to raise your hand, come off mute and ask those questions. I'm happy to answer those. As we go through the session, it's fairly informal. I can stop at any time to answer questions if you need those. So, but we'll go ahead and dive right in. So for today's session, we're going to be going over just a general overview of what GradExpo is and what to expect. That's where we'll start. And then we'll talk a bit about how you can participate and how we'd encourage you to have your fellow grad students, peers, and other students participate, whether they're presenting posters or just wanting to attend and show support. I'll give you some tips for presenting your poster and some important information for how you can print your poster and things like that here at UTEP, which are our key for participating. I'll also go through some more generalized, I think just useful like research poster symposium tips towards the end. And so we'll get a little bit of professional development in addition to just the basics of the info session today that I think you'll find helpful. And then we'll have space, a good amount at the end for any Q&A you might have, so I can answer any questions about the Grad Expo. Again, we're really excited to bring this event to the spring semester and hopefully get a lot of students participating and presenting their great research. And that all starts with you as students putting forward your proposals and coming in to present. Throughout, you'll see we've got some pictures of past years where we've done Grad Expo, and so you can get a feel of what the space is like and what the experience is like. We've kind of a collage from our 2021 Expo there in the corner there, as you can see some folks presenting, as well as our top research poster winners along the top there. And so got some good inside shots of what to expect as well throughout the session. So if you haven't already checked and seen in the advertisements, I'll remind you that Grad Expo is happening on April 16th, 2024 this year. It will happen in the Thomas Rivera Conference Center in Union West. We'll be going pretty much all day. We'll start check-in at about 8:30 and we'll go all the way through the afternoon, late afternoon with sessions for presentation. But it is on April 16th, so please make sure you are marking your calendars, putting that in your proposals and being ready to participate. And telling everybody else about coming to out and present at Grad Expo and participate. What you can expect when you attend Grad Expo is we will have a judged research poster symposium. It's the primary activity that takes place during the Grad Expo. We're planning or hoping to have 4 actual sessions this year. It will be the most research poster symposiums we've had in our Grad Expo history. And so we'll be having 4 separate sessions. Will hopefully also enable us to connect with more students and offer more available times. And so there'll be 2 in the morning, a lunch, and then 2 in the afternoon. There'll also be a keynote speaker in there after lunch. And so that is a judged research poster symposium. So there will be faculty and staff that will come to you during your assigned research, your presentation session. They'll ask you some questions. They'll ask to hear about your poster, probably ask a bit about your professional goals, things like that. And they do have kind of a rubric they follow. And we use that to both provide you all feedback. And so if you present at Grad Expo, we will provide you the feedback from the judges, which is very helpful. But also there are prizes associated with the top research posters. So it is a great way to participate, have a bit of fun competition, and a chance to win some prizes. What you can also expect is peer-to-peer networking. It's really important as you're navigating the conference experience that you learn to network effectively. And so it's a great other addition to GradExpo is you have the opportunity to practice these networking skills with your peers and with faculty and staff. And so we encourage folks who are attending GradExpo to attend not only their session, but attend the other sessions, as many as they're able, and kind of go around, check out the research, talk to their peers, and again, practice those networking skills. And you never know who you might meet at GradExpo that it can benefit you later on in your research career and your professional life. So build these connections now with these peers, these future researchers and scientists and career professionals that can help you. And so that's another aspect of the GradExpo. There's also interaction with faculty and staff. Like I said, it's a judged research poster symposium, so faculty will be coming around. We also encourage program directors and other faculty and staff to attend and check out the posters, whether they're judging or not. And so it's a great opportunity to build those connections and really show off what you bring to the table as a researcher to these faculty and staff who will be in attendance. And then there's an informative keynote presentation. We have not yet set our keynote presenter. We're still working on setting a final keynote presenter, but we always have good speakers come in. And that's another great thing that you get out of this experience. The keynote, as I said, happens after lunch. Lunch is provided as part of your participation. So if you attend as a presenter, we do provide you with lunch. And then when you come back from lunch, we'll have our keynote. So it's a full professional development experience, kind of a in-house conference, if you will. I almost describe it as like a conference light experience where you really get to practice all these different skills and these communication skills you've been working on as students and research communication skills you've been working on. So a great way to practice that, especially if you're planning on attending a professional conference in the near future. You want to make sure you're polished and ready for that conference experience. Attending this experience here at graduate school at UTEP can be really helpful with that, and we strongly recommend it. Here is the tentative agenda for the day. I've kind of hinted at this a little bit, but I'll go through it in detail so you know what where you may end up. I say it is a tentative schedule because based on number of participants and interest, we may shift this a bit. But we are planning on starting a participant check-in at 8:30 in the morning. We have about a half an hour for that. So if you're assigned to poster session 1, you can check in, find out where you're assigned in the presentation space, come in, get your poster hung up, grab a cup of coffee, a pastry, kind of mingle, check out the posters before it gets crowded, talk to one another. And then 9 o'clock will formally start. And so we got a half an hour arrival window and setup window. And then the first session is from 9 to 10 a.m. Then we have a half an hour changeover where if you're presenting in session 2, you'll come in, you'll check in, you can network with the folks that are just finishing their sessions. And so the folks that are presenting in session 1, you'll take down your poster at this time, someone will come in, they'll put up their poster in your spot. Again, we'll have coffee and pastries available for that, so you can kind of talk and mingle after you get your poster set up, check out the posters. That half an hour changeover then leads into poster session 2. That's from 10:30 to 11:30. We get an hour for poster sessions, and then we will break for lunch. Lunch is from 11:30 to 12:30. And again, we'll provide you with lunch as participants. And that is, again, it's only for our participants, not for folks that just come in to attend and check out the posters. So just be aware of that. We have an hour for lunch, and then from 12:30 till 1:30, we'll have our keynote speaker presentation, again, in the TRCC. And then we'll do another changeover session where folks who are presenting in session 3 from 1:30 to 2 can come in and start setting up their posters. We'll have coffee and some cookies at that time, so we'll switch from pastries to more of an afternoon snack. Again, give people a little bit of energy as they're ready to go, shake off any lunchtime sleepiness they might be experiencing, get ready to present, get excited for it. And then from 2 to 3, we will have poster session 3, and then again, another changeover from 3 to 3:30 with networking and coffee. And then we'll have our final poster session from 3:30 to 4:30. So it's a full day where we are presenting. We can accommodate about 20 posters per session. So it brings us up to 80 total presenters we're hoping to recruit out of the graduate students here. And so there's a lot of opportunity there. We did add that fourth poster session this year from 3:30 to 4:30. What we're trying to capture here is a wide variety of times. We know that as graduate students, there are very diverse schedules. Some folks may only be available in the morning, some only available in the afternoon, and some only in the really late afternoon right before their classes may start. And so by offering sessions throughout the day, we're hoping to capture as much availability as we can so as many students as possible can participate in GradExpo this year. So that is the overall tentative schedule. Again, subject to change as we may have some things that may come up, but this is what we're working with right now. When you complete your application, what we'll ask you to do is let us know all sessions that you can attend, because we will try to, again, place you in the session that is best available. And so if you can attend all 4 sessions, please let us know that. If you can attend 3 out of the 4, please let us know that. Please don't just pick one as your favorite, because we may have to slide folks around. We have, again, only 20 presentation spots per session. So let us know everything that you can attend, and we'll set you into the one that works the best. So how you can get involved, and again, I really hope everybody here decides to come and present their poster with us. Your poster proposals are currently due by April 1st at 9 a.m. in the morning. And so that poster application will require you to put down some basic information about you as a student, your mentor, things like that, but then also an abstract of your poster, 500 characters, not words, characters for the abstract. We actually create an abstract guide using that information, and so that's why it has to be fairly brief. And so we ask you to tell us again a bit about your poster in that abstract. And that's by April 1st. We'll pick the top 80 posters to present overall. You can present as an individual or as a group. Both are great. We've not had a ton of groups present in the past, but we have had a couple in the past choose to present that way. There'll be space in the application if you're presenting as a group to submit multiple names. And so you only need one application if you're submitting as a group. The leader will essentially just indicate themselves as the primary presenter, or I guess the lead presenter submitting it, and then they'll submit the information of all their co-presenters in the application. And again, everybody who attends is free to come and check out the keynote and have lunch if they're presenting. So a group presenting is totally fine with that. We are hoping for and welcome all submissions from all academic disciplines. It is not limited to, the STEM area or hard sciences. We have presentations from social sciences and humanities every year discussing their research and what they're doing as graduate students, and all of those are very welcome in our sessions. And so please know we don't preference any one discipline over another. We want as many diverse topics as we can have in these sessions. We also don't organize the sessions by topic, and so it's not necessarily that the morning is STEM and the afternoon is humanities. We place based on availability, and so you will have a truly multidisciplinary presentation room when you come in, and a truly multidisciplinary group of judges that come in, which I think is also really exciting. That's pretty uncommon when you think about the conference experience. Typically, when you're going to a conference, you're going to be kind of in a very similar set of presentations or spaces or areas. So, example I'd use is our chemistry students. A lot of them go to the American Chemical Society annual meetings and present posters and do lightning talks there. But in those sessions, you're against essentially in not monolithic. I mean, there's definitely diverse research that's happening, but it's all within the vein of chemistry, right? Whereas when you come to GradExpo, you may have someone who's doing, cancer research that is very important next to someone from the psychology field who is researching, drug interactions on mental health, next to someone from the teaching, learning, and culture area that is researching something very different, potentially looking at language distribution and things like that. So there's a lot of things that happen here, and a lot of great presentations that take place. If you are not ready to present, you're attending and you're kind of on the fence, that's okay. We would love to have you present, but if you're not ready, that's all right. We do Grad Expo every year. And this year is the first year we've done it in spring, so we'll see how that goes. We may move it back to fall. We may keep it in spring. We'll really look at student response and faculty response on that. But if you go through their session today and you're like, I think I'll be ready more with my research and my poster next year, that's fine. Please tell your friends to present and put in their applications. But we would love to have you stop in and see the research and support your fellow graduate students. So even if you're not presenting or you have peers, maybe folks from your lab that aren't presenting, they're not ready for that, encourage them to come in and check out your research and the research of others. Again, we're open pretty much the entire day. And so there's definitely a time you can find to sneak away from your lab and come check out what we're doing. But please come do that and come support your fellow graduate students. And again, if we have any questions about any of this as we go through, please feel free, post those in the chat. I'm happy to stop and answer those questions, kind of the basic information so far. But if anything is unclear, I can offer more guidance, let me know. There is some very specific guidance I'll offer on getting your poster ready and to present for Grad Expo. The first is the poster size. We mandate that it should be 36 by 40 inches. This is the standard printing size as far as I'm aware by the printing locations on campus. And we set it at that size because that's what fits the poster boards. I'll actually back up and show. You can see an example here of a poster that's printed and it's hung on a white backing board that we provide for you. And so every year we have folks that bring in posters that are too large or not formatted correctly, and it causes issues. I'll actually back up and see if we can find an example really quickly if there's any pictures as I go through. You can see kind of on the picture on the center left, you can see the posters curling up a little at the bottom. That is something that happens when posters are too large for the backing board. And so we say the poster has to be 36 by 40, not because we will disqualify a poster that's larger or anything like that. Again, this is meant to be a teachable experience. And so we won't disqualify posters or anything like that in the competition. But the reality is that when you print a poster that's too large, it will not fit well on the backing board and we can't provide multiple boards or multiple easels. So be very conscientious of the size when you're printing it so it'll fit on the board. There are two places where you can get your posters printed on campus, and they're very high quality and very economical. And so there is a technology support center in library room 300. So if you essentially go into the library, you come in on the ground floor, go up one set of stairs, and technology support is right there along the left-hand side, I believe. There is printing in there. And there's also the Cyber Cafe Computer Lab in Union East, room 204. If you scan the QR code that's on the page right there, it'll take you to the student printing section so you can get more information about printing. They do have some requirements of asking you to be there when they print and notify if there's any issues and things like that. Because they start the printing process, they want to make sure that you see any formatting errors, things like that, because if it gets, I think, about a third of the way through the printing and you haven't stopped the printing for an error, you are required to pay for it. Whereas if they kind of get partway through, you notice an error, you stop them, they don't charge you, they reprint it. So they do request you to be there if you can. They have some information about time windows of drop off and things like that. So you definitely want to check that out in advance. I don't recommend trying to print your poster the day before, the night before, things like that, because you invariably run into issues. But their information is located right there so you can get your poster printed. It is $5 a linear foot. And so for a Grad Expo poster, it's about $20, which is fairly economical for printing a research poster. Things you can consider if you're planning on using this poster for multiple times. The printing at the on-campus locations is definitely high quality, and you can definitely print it there, roll it up, keep it in a poster tube and use that at multiple locations. It'll definitely work for that. Something that I've seen other folks do that is a really slick trick for presenting posters is they actually get them printed on fabric. It's much easier to store and carry. You can throw it right in your carry-on and things like that. I have heard that the copy services on campus can actually do that, but I've never tested that. And you can certainly find some other services that will do that for you. That's definitely going to be a bit more pricey, but if you know you're going to be taking this poster to a couple different conferences and things like that. That is an interesting thing that I've seen. I've only seen a couple of folks do that here at GradExpo, but it's definitely very interesting and something I've noticed. So something to consider. But for a pretty economical cost, you can get your poster print here directly right on campus. Your poster presentation times, when you're meeting with your judges, you should bank on about 2 to 4 minutes and then some Q&A time. Again, it's a bit based on judges' discretion, but as you're thinking about how you'll lay out your presentation and what you want to make sure people know, you have about 2 to 4 minutes, and again, the Q&A time. It is a space where you'll have other people presenting alongside you. We try to spread the posters out. Again, we have 20 poster boards that will be presented, and they'll be spread out in a circle around the entire exterior around the perimeter, excuse me, of the TRCC room. If you've never been in there, it's a fairly large space, but you will have people, within a few feet of you also presenting. And so know that it is a space where you're presenting alongside others. You're going to need to elevate your voice, make sure that you're projecting, and we'll talk a bit about how you can do that effectively, but know that you're in a space with other folks when you present. If you are presenting at GradExpo, also business casual or above attire is required. It is not a jeans and t-shirt presentation. And so at the minimum, please have business casual attire. There is a great resource on campus if you need professional attire though, and that is the Career Center Career Closet. And so you can go ahead and search that out at the My UTEP page and the Career Center, and you can get items on loan. And so if you need professional attire, that is an option for both this conference and when you're traveling to other conferences or if you have an interview. So some more guidance on just creating your poster and some good information for you all to make sure it's a winning poster. First, make sure you're using a clear and descriptive title. You'd be surprised how often folks leave the title off or make it small and that it can't be seen. You want to make sure that there's a descriptive title that if someone's walking past your poster, they're generally walking a few feet away from it around the circle, kind of looking at where they want to stop in and talk with someone. And if they don't see a descriptive, clear title, they're not likely to walk up and talk with you. And so make sure there's a clear descriptive title on there so it encourages people to stop, pause, review your work, and come engage with you. Ensure that any text you use is legible and any supplemental images are clear. Check that on the preprint file. And then again, that's why I encourage you to be there as they're printing. If you notice things are coming out very blurry, you can stop them, fix it, and then try to get it worked out. But make sure if you're, copying and pasting an image from like your dissertation into the PDF for print and things like that, it doesn't become distorted or blurry. You want those things to be clear. Any figures you include should be labeled clearly. You again want to have the idea that, let's say you stepped away to use the restroom during your poster symposium session, that if someone was walking past, they could stop at your poster, read it a bit, and get a general idea of your research. You're there to provide the additional context and answer questions and give more in-depth analysis of your work. But in some ways, it should be able to stand on its own in case you're not there. You're stopping to get a cup of coffee, you're using the restroom, you stop to look at another poster, things like that. I strongly encourage using plain backgrounds and simple layouts. Again, you want to promote readability, make sure people can see it and understand what's going on. And so really complicated backgrounds or overly designed backgrounds are going to detract from that, make it hard to read for folks. And so simple layouts and plain backgrounds will be best. And then consider approachability, brevity, and engagement. You want people to feel like they can come up and talk to you about your research. You want the content on your poster brief enough that someone can read it while chatting with you or talking, so they don't feel like they have to take 2 or 3, 5, 10 minutes to digest the content. And you want to think about how you are engaging them with the conversation or how the poster is pulling them in, right? And so consider all of those factors when you're designing your poster. I have a couple of resources that you can check out to go a little bit more in depth in this that are great resources. First is the library here has a LibGuide on how to have a great poster session, which is a great interactive little piece for that. And so it's scannable right there on the presentation. And there's also the Purdue OWL research poster section, which is another great resource to use. And so I encourage you to check out both of those to go a bit more in depth in creating your poster and kind of making it a winner. The end goal with all of this, though, is to make sure that you're promoting readability from a distance. That's one of the key refrains that I have when talking to students about creating their research posters. When you go to a conference, again, folks are not generally walking, within a foot or two of your poster and deciding where they want to stop and spend their time. They're usually 4 or 5 feet or more away, usually with a little plate of snacks or something, kind of walking around, deciding where they're going to engage. If they don't have good readability from that distance, they're not going to walk up and learn more. And so your ability to pull them in is really by the ability that they can, from 5 or 6 feet away, they can get some sense of what's going on, decide they're interested and want to come up and talk to you. You think about this from the just human behavior standpoint. A lot of us are introverts, and so we go into these spaces. It's a bit intimidating. So we go, we grab our snacks, we walk around, and we kind of work up the courage to go up and talk to someone. And again, we're going to go up and talk to the person that seems the most approachable, and the content seems the most approachable. So you want to kind of think of that mindset of how am I drawing in those folks that in the room may just find it a bit, high anxiety or intimidating. How am I bringing them into what I do? And if you carry forward that mentality, your overall poster and presentation will be stronger for both the folks that are excited to be in the room with a lot of people and the folks that are intimidated by the room. Some tips on actually presenting your poster. Now I'm going to take a quick a note aside here. I've got a couple pictures here that are from earlier grad expos. As you can see, the posters are set up in a more of a small kind of horseshoe setup. I want to be very clear, we do not set up the posters that way anymore. We set them up all around the room to create a little bit more distance and give you a bit more space to breathe and talk and be heard. So as you look at that, that's a very compact setup. We tried that for the first year in TRCC. We've modified that now so you'll have more space. So I think it's a good picture to illustrate what the room looks like, but also we do give you more space than that between posters now. So just know you have a bit more space. When you are presenting your poster, make sure you have a clear structure and goals in mind for what you want to discuss. How will you lead someone through your poster? How will you lead them through to the key concepts and lead them to the question answer and what you're discussing? Do prepare and practice. Set your poster up. Talk with your peers, maybe do a little demo in your lab with your fellow researchers or with your friends. But practice and prepare. What you don't want to have is the first time you've ever discussed your poster is on the day of when the first judge comes up to talk to you, right? You want to have enough opportunity to practice it and kind of had some people ask you questions about it so you feel really ready. You will need to speak with volume. As I said, there will be a lot of other people in the room also presenting at the same time. We try to give you as much space as possible, but there will be other people there. And that's very much like the conference experience. And so that's something you have to get used to. And that's part of the benefit of doing this is you get some practice, a real world experience with this of what it's like to present in a crowded room. But you'll need to speak with volume. And so you need to practice that, speaking from the diaphragm, making sure you're projecting and heard so that people can understand what you're saying. And then be ready for the Q&A. You should expect that people are going to ask you questions, both about the research that you're going through and also professional questions. What are you studying? Where are you hoping to spend your time in research? Are you looking at a faculty position? Are you hoping to get a job in industry, government work? What's practical applications for this? Why did you get into graduate school in the first place? Those kinds of things folks are interested in, especially judges. So be prepared not just for the research questions, but also the professional questions that you may receive. And then some things to think about beyond just GradExpo. I think these are just generally really good tips to have as you are thinking about conference attendance. Make sure you are always preparing in advance. Now, you're already doing that for Grad Expo. You're here at the info session, and so that's really great work. You are ahead of the game from your peers by deciding to be here today. But you want to make sure you read and follow all instructions. We already have some information up on the Grad Expo website. I encourage you to check that out and review it. When you are selected to present, you'll get a pretty thorough email from us at the graduate school giving you information on the session you're assigned to, what the day looks like, expectations, things like that. Make sure you read and follow all of that. And that's true for any conference. What you don't want to do is kind of be unclear about or show up at the wrong time or with the wrong materials. So first step is always read and follow all the instructions. And again, sometimes you may get a very lengthy set of instructions, and you make sure you read that thoroughly so you don't miss anything. Make sure you know what the maximum poster size is, right? That really is determined by what they're going to give you for your setup. And so you need to make sure you meet that. Some folks may be a bit more sticklers for poster size than we are, and that we have a requirement, but it's for making sure you're able to present, not about qualification, but other folks may disqualify you if it's a juried competition. So make sure you're following that. You don't want to get cut based on a technicality. Know where you should go and when you need to be there for setup. And I encourage you, if you're attending a conference, you've never been to that location before, go find that presentation space the day before. If you're presenting on day 2 of the conference, go know where that room is in advance so that you're not kind of lost in the shuffle or kind of having to hurry there, right? Ease your own potential anxiety by knowing where you need to go in advance. Make sure you know all your materials, your goals, and your audience. Again, you would assume folks are really familiar with their research and the poster they've created, but I've definitely seen situations where students are less familiar than you'd expect, or they're maybe part of a research group and not everyone is able to attend at that time, and there are sections of the poster they're not familiar with, right? And so if you are presenting as a group, everyone in the group needs to know the poster front and back, so that if someone isn't able to attend or isn't there at that moment, everyone can speak in an educated manner about the content. But again, even if you're just presenting solo, make sure you're really familiar with what you put on your session, your poster. Not necessarily super necessary for Grad Expo, but things to think about for other sessions. I recommend creating like a 1-page summary of the main points and your contact information to hand out. You don't need a ton of copies of that, but having some in case you have someone that's really interested but can't stay to talk to you fully. They want to make contact with you later. They're excited about your research. You can hand them something a bit more than a business card and then build up that contact. That's a great tactic to get people to engage with you in your research. And then bring business cards if you're able. And if you don't have those, consider getting them printed. You want to have some way for people to get in contact with you. You can also look at creating a digital business card. That's something that's becoming a bit more popular. And so it's something to think about. It's a low cost or no cost way to do that if you don't want to print out physical copies. When you're presenting, engage with people as they pass by and ask if they have questions. One of the things I often see is, there's again those folks that are intimidated by the space. They're there to observe, but they don't know who to talk to, or they're just kind of casually observing, waiting to see who jumps out at them. And the presenters just kind of stand and nod and smile and wave and wait for someone to make the first move. And so what I encourage you to do is, if someone walks past and they look at your poster and they make eye contact, say hello, wave at them, ask them if they have any questions. The natural reaction is that people are going to step forward and they're going to want to talk to you at that point. You're inviting them in. And so if you want people to check out your poster, you want to not just be standing around waiting for someone to come up to you, engage with them, pull them out of the audience and up to you. This is really important, and get comfortable with that. Know your audience, when you're presenting at a conference. Are they all experts in your field, or you have a multidisciplinary room? And figure out how you're going to present based on that space. As I mentioned, Grad Expo is a truly multidisciplinary space with multidisciplinary judges, so you never know who you're going to be talking to. And so you really want to think about with your research, especially if you're doing something highly technical, how are you going to distill that research in a way that a lay audience, an educated audience, but not an expert in your field, or maybe someone's completely outside your field, is going to be able to understand it? If you're doing something highly technical and you throw a bunch of jargon out there, it's not going to work well. They're not going to get the content and the context, and you won't perform well overall. And so think about that. But you also may have experiences in the future where you attend a conference where everyone is a highly educated expert specifically in that field. In that case, you're able to elevate your research to a more technical level. But again, even then, don't assume that everyone's going to know everything that you talk about. So know that audience. And then consider and think for yourself as you're thinking about how you present. Consider, why is your research important? And have a really clear, distilled idea in your mind of, why is my research important? So when someone talks to you, you can convey that in your conversation. Think about what the implications are in your field and beyond. And I see that I have a typo there I'll need to fix. But yeah, any implications in your field and beyond, and you want to articulate those as well. That also helps with generating potential future contacts for your research. And then, how are you uniquely qualified to conduct that research? The poster is as much about your research as it is about you. And so talking about how you conducted the research, why you're uniquely qualified to do it. And so things you want to consider, and you think about how you're developing your presentation that you'll give along with your poster. I have a little diagram here that helps illustrate what this looks like. The reality is that what we tend to do when we're talking about our research or talking about things in general is we like to, or we tend will start with a lot of background information. And so we give a lot of background and then a bit of supporting details. And at the end, we come to the results and the conclusion, right? And I borrow this diagram actually from the presentation given by Jen Green at the OSFA and talking about research communication and applying for grants. I borrowed this with her permission because I think it really also applies very directly here in thinking about how you're conveying and communicating your research in a spoken medium of research poster symposiums. The tendency when we're experts is to start with all the background, right? The reality is that folks walking around, they're not really interested in all the background. They're interested in what's the bottom line. And so a more effective way to communicate it is more in the other side, which is starting with, why is this important, right? What's the bottom line that you want to convey? What do you want them to know? And then what's the so what of that that's important for them? What are the implications? And then you provide some more supporting details for the folks that stick around long enough to really digest all of it, right? And so start from the bottom line and work your way out. That's going to be a more effective and more engaging way to construct your presentation. Other ways to look at this, again, I'd like to give you some good details here, some communication strategies. And so you can think of this as the problem, solution, benefit model of communication. And so you think about how you're structuring your presentation. And so address what the issue or the problem is that you're trying to address with your research, or the central focus of that the research. If there isn't necessarily a problem you're addressing, it's more of illuminating a historical event or something like that. But kind of think of what that key point is, explain how you're solving it or exploring it, and then describe the benefit of following through with that plan, right? So what are the implications? Can see this loosely as the what, so what, now what, right? And so describing that idea or argument, defining it in that what, giving them the so what, why the idea or argument is important to the recipient, what are the implications, and then now what? What do you want them to apply through the idea, the idea or the argument? What's the solution that you're giving them, right? These are really effective ways to craft your communication, and you're trying to persuade and get people engaged with you, which you're trying to do in a research poster. You want to show that enthusiasm and through the work that you're doing. And so this is effective ways to do that. I also want to touch very briefly before we go to Q&A on making sure you're also an empathetic and active listener. I'm going to encourage you, when you're in the space, maybe after your session, go and check out the other posters and engage and support your fellow presenters by checking out their research and asking them some questions. And when you do that, make sure you're being an empathetic and active listener. This is just a really good skill for us to practice. It'll make us better at conferences and better in our networking. And so while I think it's good for you to do this for the benefit of your peers, it's not 100% altruistic. You're also practicing to make yourself a better listener and more engaging at conferences and make better networking connections, which again will pay dividends for you in your career. But you want to make sure you're at the attentive level for listening, right? And listening kind of moves in this progression, right? There's the first level, which is ignoring. Essentially, that's where you're outright, I'm not paying attention. I'm clearly not doing that. I'm on my phone. You know what I mean? I'm walking away. To pretending, that's where you're kind of maybe smiling and nodding, but you're just not really there. You're not digesting the material. And then moves to selective. That is what we describe as kind of someone is listening to think about how they'll respond or what question they'll ask versus actually digesting the material, right? And so you're still kind of focused on you in that moment. And then you want to move past that listening to respond, selective model, to a truly attentive space. Digest what they're telling you. Think about what the implications of their research. Engage with them so that they feel positive about what they're doing, and then you're really hearing the material. And that'll lead you to asking better questions and more engagement, and then again, better networking. And so think about that. For empathetic listening, there's a couple ways to do that. Again, seek to understand their presentation, not just kind of walk past it or to give comments. So seek to understand. Follow up with good questions where you have them, and then offer support and encouragement. Again, it can be really intimidating to come into this space and to present your research, and you may have some thoughts and feelings about that. So make sure you're supporting one another, offering encouragement. Don't tear people down, build them all up. So with that, again, that's an overview of GradExpo and what we're doing, and then some good professional development tips to help you be successful in the experience for GradExpo. I'll go ahead and go back on camera here and then answer any questions you all have. I see one I have here. I'll read it out here as we get started. I want to present my dissertation topic. However, it is not completed yet. Can I have a poster presentation based on my proposal defense? I'm currently in the process of collecting data from my study, so I don't have a result section developed yet, but I do have a conclusion section. Absolutely, yes. You can present something that's in process. So I would kind of think of this as like we used to do our 3-minute thesis at the same time as GradExpo, or in tandem. And for 3-minute thesis, you really need to be post proposal and kind of have some conclusion to present. For GradExpo, you can be really at almost any phase. If you have something you feel warrants presentation, you can put together, even if it's the start of your research studies. That is something you can present as long as you feel strong and confident about what you're presenting. So you don't have to have that conclusion. Obviously, you have a conclusion. You don't have to have the full results and stuff like that. You can talk about something in progress. And sometimes we see some of our most engaging presentations are those more in progress. This is what I'm still working on. And this is my future directions, right? So that's totally fine. Great question. Other questions, feel free to post those in chat, raise your hand, come off mute. I'll answer any questions that you all have. I hope that's not the only question. If selected as a presenter, do you provide a template for us, or are we open to having our own format for the poster? That's a great question as well. If selected, you are in charge of your poster and your template. We do not provide a specific format. I have some general guidelines and things. Like I said, I recommend simple formats and templates, plain backgrounds. You can find a bit more about layout and examples on the library guide and also Purdue OWL, and you can find some great material online. But no, we don't provide an overarching template you must follow. It's really truly up to you. We give guidelines for the abstract. That's a great question as well. So the only guideline we provide for the abstract is it has to be under 500 characters, and it should describe your poster. We will take that abstract directly and use that to create the abstract guide. And so if you want to see examples of previous abstracts, if you go on to the GradExpo webpage, and I'll actually really quickly drop the GradExpo webpage in the chat here. Give me 1 second while I find that. Sorry, give me a second here, folks. I have a couple things on my screen, so it's making it a challenge. But I'll really quickly put in the chat the GradExpo page, and on there you can download the abstract guide from prior semesters, and so that is really helpful with seeing that. Half a second here, I'm almost got it. I've got too many things to move on my page here. Okay, so that is the GradExpo webpage. And then if you scroll on that page, you'll see near right behind the pictures, there's a fall 2022 GradExpo abstract guide. That'll show you what those have looked like. But the only guidance is 500 characters. It should describe your research well. It should engage people, make them want to come and kind of, because they'll get a piece of paper they can, when they walk in the door, it'll show what the research is. They'll want to read that and be like, yep, that's something I want to stop and see. It's overly technical. You'll push people away who aren't experts, right? And so think a bit about that. But that's the guidance that we only guidance we provide. Let's scroll here. We got a couple other questions. Will we have a 3MT event in the fall semester? We certainly hope to. We planned a 3-minute thesis for this past fall. Unfortunately, we had lower engagement. We definitely had students who were interested, but lower overall engagement. And so we're hoping to bring our 3-minute thesis back. We need enough students to express interest and come through our preliminaries in order for us to host it. What we're hoping to do actually is have the prelims actually happen within the colleges, and then send their champions to the 3-minute thesis, because that will help us with that overall participation. But we're hoping to have that for the fall semester. If you'd like us to have 3-minute thesis, really encourage your peers to participate. That really helps us. We know folks are interested in it, but we also know that time is valuable, and sometimes folks are just not ready and things like that. And so the more people get interested in that, the more able we are to do that. I would also say this is true for GradExpo. We really need to encourage more students to take part, both as presenters and attending. And so I appreciate you all for being here. I really strongly encourage you to get the message out to your peers, and encourage them to come and submit a poster and come and get this experience. In order for us to drive the event, it is student driven. We do need your support as presenters to do it. Other questions? And I appreciate the folks in the group sharing, willing to share examples with one another. I love the collegiality of that. Thank you for assisting there. Will we receive a link for the recording? That's a great question as well. You got a lot full of really good questions. I'm going to put a priority on editing this recording and posting it on our website. And so typically I do that within a week. I'm going to try and get this actually done tomorrow, so that it is available. And so I would say check back on late Thursday into Friday on the graduate school workshops and events page, and I'll have posted this recording for you all to review. And then you can share it with your peers as well. I'll actually drop the workshops and events page link in the chat as well, so you can see it. If you don't know, and I hope you already do know, but if you don't know, we record most of our workshops whenever we're able, and then I will edit those and post those to our workshops and events page. I don't always replace them. So let's say we do our IDP workshop in the fall, and we have a prior recording that's very similar, and the other ones of good quality. I don't always replace them. And so as long as it's a good quality recording and it's relatively recent, we keep it up. But I record them every time. And so like this will get recorded, we'll post this. Other questions? Well, if you do have questions, I'm going to put my email in the chat. Again, I'm Jesse Singleton. I'm the Assistant Director for Student Support. The entire outreach, recruitment, and student support team within the graduate school develops and does GradExpo. And so we're all going to be working to make this an exciting event for you all. I am the point person and kind of the chair of the group. And so if you email me direct, I'll get you any answers you need. Please email me with questions. But thank you again, all folks, for attending today, asking good questions. I really hope to see submissions from all of you by April 1st at 9 a.m. And again, from your friends and peers, please push the word out and get as many folks involved as you can. And let us know if you have questions. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and end our session today. I'll hang back if you have a question you don't want to ask in front of the group. I'll hang back in the room here until we clear out. Otherwise, thank you very much and have a great day.